What's up, Ramblers? Your favorite CEO is back. And before we begin today's podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode. And follow Assistance HQ and Offsource HQ across all platforms to stay up to date on the latest content, updates, and more. And remember, if you need a virtual assistant, visit us at offsource.tech. Now, before we begin, a word from our sponsor. Hey guys, welcome back to another wonderful episode of The Ramblings. And today I have with us an actual brand new member to our team, Alexander Woods. He is actually also the host of My History, which is spelled M-I, because he's from Michigan. So it's Michigan's history or My History, one and the same at this particular point. How are you doing? Introduce yourself today, Alex.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. I am Alexander Woods, just like Angelo said here. Yes, host of My History Podcast, a podcast where we talk about myself, you, or anybody else in the Michigan area about a story that they have to share. I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for asking.
Thanks for coming on. So we always love asking these questions. We love hearing people's stories. This is very much a story podcast, probably similar to yours, right? And so the biggest thing is you're a podcaster, I'm a podcaster. We don't get a lot of people that do podcasts up here, right? We've had some podcast collabs before. You're in the first 5 podcast collabs I've ever done with other people that actually have a podcast, right? How did you start your podcast? Like, you use Anchor as well, but everyone has like the idea. Like, there's always like the festering where it's like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm going to do, and then you execute it on that. How did you get to like the idea of My History?
Yeah, that's a good question because I just started this year. So 2021 was new for me, and I started in like January 1st, and I was like, what kind of content do I want to put out? And I was looking at the things I'm passionate about, things that I either know or things that I just want people to know. And I'm like, I really want people to know each other, and I am passionate about people themselves. That's my dog in the background. His name is Titan. And for me, it was, I want people to know each other. So how do I do that? Well, it's through interviews. So I guess it's just going to be like hearing people talk about whatever they want to talk about. And I thought to myself, is like, all right, how do you preface that into something that is easily understood? And I'm just like taking the time to think about this and writing it out, like what kind of things I want to do. And it kind of like eventually got to the point where I was like, okay, we're going to have them tell a story about whatever that, comes to them, basically. So it's like a conversation between like right now, yourself and myself. And, we're sitting at a family dinner, or we sitting, in a coffee shop, and we're just like having a conversation. And it's just like, oh, I've heard this one thing, or this one thing that happened to me. This is interesting story that you want to share with somebody else about your life, or things that you have witnessed, things that you've experienced. And that's pretty much the podcast. Really, it's sitting down with someone else and hearing a story that they had to share.
You know what's crazy? My mom has that same idea for a podcast.
Mm,
Like, she wants to just like sit down and like hear people's stories because like
yeah,
it's crazy. Well, what everyone is like the how people think and ideas, right? Is the podcast live, right? Like, people can go see the podcast right now, right?
yeah, yeah, right
Okay.
now. Yeah.
So, what is the craziest story that you've had on your podcast?
um that's a really tough one because I've just finished season one has about, I want to say, 12 episodes. So out
Congratulations
of
on
the
that.
12, yeah, right. So out of the 12, I think the craziest one for me, and it actually is like one of the more successful ones right now that's running. Like it's the highest played episode. It's called The Focus of Corey Wagner.
The focus of
I
Corey.
come up with the titles myself, but okay,
I
bragging a
like it.
little
Yeah,
bit.
I like focus
Yeah,
of Corey Wagner. Who is Corey? Is he like
Corey
someone you
Wagner.
know already? Was it like a random person?
Yeah, so a lot of these people are people I've met, people I've randomly met, things, that I've come in contact with them. Is like, hey, in my life, we had a conversation. Oh, I liked your energy and you seem to like my energy. We're good peoples. Would you like to come on a podcast? That's kind of how I go about with, shooting my shot and just getting people to hear what I have to say and
Same.
see if they want to like join on. And so Corey Wagner, he owned a Honda S2000. Some of you car folks may know what that is if you're a car person. If not, that's okay. You don't need to worry about it. For the fact is that his Honda S2000 had some rims that he didn't want anymore. I
Mhm.
liked them. Being myself a car person, I wanted to buy them. He was selling them on Facebook, so I went to go buy them. And that's pretty much how um, myself and him got like, talking. And it turns out we actually go to the same car club community events every now and then.
Oh, you're
And
in a
I just
car
didn't know.
club community.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm in too. So the MSU has, I graduated from MSU, go green, go white. MSU has their own somewhat
Go green.
racing club. Yeah, there we go.
Our high school was Green Knight, so go green.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so MSU Racing Club, it's like tangentially related to MSU themselves, but they're not like sponsored by MSU. It's like MSU says you can use our name and likeness for the purpose of this club, basically. So
Okay.
MSU Racing Club, I'm a part of that, and I'm a part of the Lansing area car meets, which is and isn't a big thing now. I want to say is because the car community is still there. They're
Hmm.
still relevant. And I want to say isn't because there are some individuals who've made some of our meetings less conducive to be there. And I say
What
that
is
in a
that? What does that
sense,
mean? That sounds like you're hiding something. What do they do?
it's that HR talk.
There's
um,
no HR here. No
right,
compliance. Spill the
right.
beans.
So there's some people who they like to showboat their vehicles, and I'm all for it,
Hmm.
except businesses aren't for it because it produces a lot of noise. Noise pollution is a thing that sometimes can cause an accident. I don't remember if it has happened to that level or extent, but also officers don't like to see people doing burnouts in a parking lot or doing donuts in a parking lot. So with that being said, there's that's why it is and isn't still a thing right now. It's just because there isn't a certified place that says, hey, we want you to come here and have your meets here at our business and show up and bring more attention to us, because the attention that we may get is kind of negative. So that's
Gotcha.
why it is and isn't a thing. So whenever we do a meet, it's kind of sometimes smaller or impromptu.
Low key.
um, right, right. So going back to Corey Wagner, so that's the car community, and that's where I met him, or that's where we meet, and that's kind of how we got to talking a little bit. Um, Bought the rims from him, put on my car. It was all good. Fast forward to 2021, and I'm doing my podcast, and I'm shooting my shot out at MSU Racing Club and Lansing Car Area Meets. So I was like, hey guys, I'm kind of doing this thing where I want to get people's opinions or their thoughts about A, B, and C. So A, B, and C being one, an opinion or thought or a story from a car enthusiast, someone from a car professional world, and someone who's just like a local mechanic, really. So with that being said, Corey Wagner, he got on there, was like, I think I have a story to tell. I was like, sweet, bet. Let me hear it. So we set up the recording time, we start recording, and he's telling me the story.
Mhm.
And it was quite inspiring beyond all accounts, because what he was telling me was that he had a tumor in his brain
Mhm.
sometime ago. I don't remember the years or the timing what he said. He might not even given a time in the podcast, but he had a tumor in his brain, and it's not genetic. Sorry, that's my phone there. I thought I had it on silent. So
Nah, that's fine.
it might be genetic because his father had also the same type of tumor. So he's telling me this, that he had this tumor in his head. I'm saying had because he got it removed, and but he had to get it removed, and he was going to go through surgery, and he was telling me how he had to go do family meeting or family events, picnics, barbecues, gatherings, and he was basically letting his family members know that this might be the last day for me. Like, you may not see me after this year, and that for me is just so hard to
Yeah.
to come to grips with. Like you're telling your nieces, your nephews, your cousins, everybody, like, I could be dying, and this is it. So say your goodbyes today, because who knows what will happen later on. And that is, yeah, it's like, when you hear the crystal ball, or the crystal ball question of, would you ever want to know how you die or where you die or things
No,
like that?
no, no,
Right.
no.
Most people are going to be like, some people are going to be like yes, other people are going to be like no, but it's always a point of contention, because of the fact that that there's that thing of, if you know, will it change you, will it help you, will it make you worse, will it make you better, and how will that information be added to you? And for him, it's really that situation where now he knows that where he may die and how he may die. He may die on an operating table, and it's going to be in a hospital, and that is going to be the day. So he was coming to grips with that. He was making all his plans, his will, like he's going through the whole, 9 yards, missing up to the 10th, um, because he survived the surgery, and then he had to go through rehabilitation. But like that itself, like that's inspiring. Like, how do you come to grips with that? But then, even after that, so he has to go through rehab. He can't really speak well. Because it's in his brain, in an area of brain that controlled like both his vocal and his motor function. So he
Oh
had to
my
go through
god.
physical therapy. Yeah, it's crazy. So he had to go through physical therapy. He had to go through speech therapy, and he probably had to go through some actual spiritual and emotional therapy throughout the process. But as he's telling me this, he's like, he fell in love with his car, and I think because he wanted to customize it, because he wanted to do something to it. I think he was saying in the story, like, he had got the inspiration or something from that matter to customize his car, and his car was a Ford Focus. So there goes the
Is
error of the
that the
title.
most customized car that people are customizing outside of Hondas and stuff? Because I always like my boy Steve. He's a gearhead kind of guy, and
Hmm.
he has a Ford Focus. Is that like a thing?
Yeah. So uh, it's like, yeah, it's a thing. In short, it's a thing.
Okay.
A lot of people who buy the new Ford Focus, or the Ford Focus RS specifically, or if you get the Ford Focus ST, I think the RS is a European one, and we don't get that one. I think it's RS for rally sport, and ST is for maybe sport traction. I could be completely wrong. I'm totally acceptable for that, and there's gonna be maybe some car people who are like, "Oh my god," it's fine. It's cool. I don't own a Ford Focus. I own a Ford Mustang. So,
Oh,
and before you say, "Oh, it's an automatic and it's a V6," so there goes all my street cred. But it's convertible, and I'm
that's
fine with that.
nice.
Yeah, I'll snatch somebody's girl. No, but so he was saying that, he was customizing his Ford Focus, and in order for him to do that, he had to go through the physical therapy, and he had to have that motivation to do it. So he, in a sense, was pushing himself to continue the speech therapy, to continue the physical therapy, and to continue on healing properly, in order so he can work on his car and get it ready for, like, a show or a meet or something. But he did it without thinking, I need to do this for my rehab. And he did it without thinking, I need to do this so I can survive. He did it just because he loved cars. And that was like inspiring, because you looked outside yourself, outside your situation, and you're just thinking, what can I do to get this? And I'm just going to go ahead and get it done, and try my best at it. So that one was inspiring and shocking, because you could never tell that happened to him today. He was walking, he talks normally, like there's nothing wrong with his speech. Like I would never known that, yeah, you're on a hospital bed for like months, stuck inside your home, because you couldn't go anywhere, because you physically could not go anywhere, and
Mm.
you couldn't talk, like properly. Like that is, I would never have guessed that. And he was saying he has like some scarring on his neck or something. Didn't even notice it. When I meet him or I see him, I barely am I staring at his neck, like, like, no, I don't even notice it. So he was saying that was inspiring for him, for me to tell them like I would never have known that for you. But those type of moments of inspiration and sharing where you and someone else can have that connected moment, I think that's what makes the podcast special, and that's what makes that episode all the more amazing to me and shocking and crazy cool, just because it's that it speaks to the human spirit of willpower, perseverance, and patience and work ethic. So, we are amazing people, and we're amazing people because we can push through all boundaries and lines without even, noticing it. So,
That's amazing, man. We love a podcast that always brings out people's, wonderful stories. We love the stories here, but the motivational aspects of how things go and how people receive different messages and what they go through really can definitely inspire us. And it feels good to be able to like put those stories on a platform to be able to share. And so I guess that brings me to like, I guess my next little point I kind of want to talk about, right? So you're now 28, you said?
yeah. Hmm.
And so you've studied like kinesiology in college. You've done, I'd say, 28 years worth of stuff. You're in a pretty good place and everything. How do you feel about
I'm in a pretty good place. Maybe, maybe not. um, because of COVID, it changed everything for me, and that's where I am right now. Last year, I had my kind of science job. So my job last year, let's say last year, beginning May, no, beginning April, end of March and beginning April, I was a food and safety uh, research microbiologist. For some of you science hooks,
it?
you may
I
know what
have
that
no
is.
idea what
Right.
microbiologist.
Yeah. So, how do you get to microbiology when you have a degree in kinesiology? I have a background in doing microbial work. Like, I took a microbial class,
You have to
understood
break no, no.
cells.
Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow
Okay.
down, bro. I don't
So,
know kinesiology from microbiology because they sound like they could be related. So when you said how do I get from that, I thought that was how you got to it. So
yeah, no. So, kinesiology is a study of human biomechanics, how they move, how they
Mhm.
uh, exercise. You can do into different specializations about the human body and its movement. Is how to make that movement more productive, make it more efficient, that type of area. So that leads to your sport coaches, your athletic coaches. You can get into your physical therapy, people who do the physical therapy. You can get into that. You can get into sports medicine. There's a plethora of options, all revolving around human fitness. And that's where kinesiology can go to. I didn't go to that. Instead, I used my background in microbiology because I went to college first as a physiology major, switching to a microbiology major. Microbiology is pretty much the bite-sized microbiology in terms of cells, bacteria, fungi,
Mm.
viruses, things of that nature that we can't see with our naked eyes, that we can look under a microscope or do tests to figure out what it is. That's my college background before I switched to kinesiology. Then I have a minor in health promotion, which is promoting health to society. That's in general, that's what it is. So I won't get too specific into that. So um, coming out of college, changing jobs and so forth, getting into food and safety. How did I do that? I took a job as a chemist level one, or level one chemist at a company that they sell food and safety test kits to other companies. These test kits are supposed to teach or show companies, not teach, they're supposed to show companies that the products that they are selling to us, our consumers, are safe to consume, safe to use, safe to eat, whatever the case is. Also, there's test kits that help make sure that the agricultural side of these companies, so farmers, farms, that their livestock is healthy and not riddled with diseases. They do tests to make sure this happens, and this is all regulated by different regulation um, companies like the FDA, who have regulation standards, and there's USDA, there's BAM, there's another plethora of others, and they have different regulation standards that the companies that they would sell to need to adhere to.
Okay.
Anyway, my job as chemist level 1 was to develop some of these tests in a laboratory, as in make the media, the solution, the liquids of it.
So
So
you were like doing like actual chemist stuff, like Jimmy Neutron pouring things into pipes.
sure, yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
yeah.
Listen,
It
man.
sounds way more interesting. No, I'm just letting you know, it sounds way more interesting than it really is. But
Okay.
that is what I was doing.
Only because I mean, growing up, I liked math and science, right? Science was like a big thing. I really was like, because I thought science was what I saw on TV or Jimmy Neutron and stuff, where it's like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
putting like potions together and I'm like chemical X and I'm gonna be making like Godzilla or whatever. And then I found out it was like balancing chemical equations and stuff like that. And I was like, no, that's not for me. Um,
yeah,
so when I hear scientists and you're like actually like mixing and doing stuff, I'm like, what do you so that sounds pretty cool.
yeah. And so for a chemist level 1 at that position, a lot of that stuff, the balancing and the making sure you're re-engineering the chemical equation and making sure you have all your right hydrogens and carbons and so all that's done for you. So you follow and this is in a manufacturer, it's technically a manufacturer position in a manufactured area. So technically everything is done for you, and all you need to do is follow what's called a SOP, a standard operating procedure. And in this standard operating procedure, you follow the line. So step 1, you pour chemical X into cylinder B, and cylinder B has this, volume size to it. Let's say it's 200, it's not 200 liters, but let's say it's 200 liters. You
Mhm.
pour chemical X into 200 liters. And then it tells you, okay, next step, you stir solution B. Next step, you go on to, you add another chemical X squared. Next step, you stir that solution. So like it's really simplified, so you don't have to do all that math work, but there is still math included, because how do you get X solution? Well, you have to take powder A, B, and C and mix them together in the proper weight, and you have to wait for the color to change, or you got to boil them for until they get a rolling boil, or things like that. Like you got to do certain things that take a technique or a finesse to them, but not necessarily a full degree for them, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So there's an opening in the company for a research area, and that's where I applied to, got the job, and then I was a research microbiologist for 2.5 years until COVID hit. Then I got laid off for a month, and they said, we're not firing you. We're just needing to make some cutbacks. And we just want you to know, do my HR. All right. And this is what HR is telling me. All right. Like, really pamper me up, butter me up, like, all right, send you on your way. Go on.
Right
I'm
on
just
out.
like, right. Okay, cool. I guess, we'll call you back in a month to let you know what's going to happen. But don't worry, you're not being fired. You're just being laid off. Yes, you can collect unemployment. I'm like, okay, I'm not being fired. I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. A month later, I got a call. Hey, we're not going to have you back on. So I was like, well, great.
Mm,
Now I'm out of a job. I mean, I still collect unemployment, but now I'm out of a job,
right.
So, fast forward to this year, I've become a Board of Health chairman in my county. I'm on the Racial Equity Task Force in my county. I'm a campaign manager for a candidate in local elections. So I just became more politically and community involved, which is what I've always wanted to do anyway. And
That's
aside from
big
all
for a lot
that,
of people. I want to touch on that. A lot of people
yeah,
have been trying to make a lot of different coronavirus transitions, right? 2020 was like probably called like the year of transition or anything like that, or something like, if you
yeah,
will, feel me? So everyone has had to make different transitions. Everyone has had to do different pivots and everything. And a lot of people have seen this as, being when they were stripped from their job or they had to do, they saw it as the opportunity to kind of start fresh and say, I can now get into what I really want to do. Because it's not like it's just like a personal kind of situation, but a lot of people are going through the same thing. So it's like a super mass let go. And it's not like it's easy to just go back out and find a job. So why not enter into something that you love? And so, like you said, you got much more active in being a political figure and being, involved in your community and stuff like that. What was your transition like from losing or being laid off in your job to then transitioning to saying, you know what, I'm gonna use this instead of to go find another microbiology job or work on the coronavirus or something? What made you say, hey, I'm going to take this time to be more involved with my community and what I like doing?
Well, actually, I still did. I did this or I did that, and I was still looking for more science jobs, and I had got a science job, and it was paying me way more than it was in my previous 2.5 year job, and then I lost that job because I think I didn't take it. I think I took it for granted. I think that's
Mm,
what it was, and because of that, that flowed into my work, and that was the air of my downfall. Basically, it was that I took it for granted and I didn't have any real connection with it. And part of also that was due to the fact that, like, I put 2.5 years in the other company, and I made relationships that I still have today, friendships that I still stick with. And it was kind of hard to make that transition from one company to another so abruptly, because I got it
mm,
like 2 months later.
right.
But it was just hard for me to just make that company transition. Like, now I am a affiliate of this company, so like, instead of having part of my identity here, now it's over here, and that's just how it is. And it was like, it was a little bit harder for me to do that. So there's a little bit of that kind of plagued on me. But in terms of community stuff, I was growing to being more involved in the community because back in 2019,
Hmm.
um, we had suffered a loss in our family due to gun violence. So the result of that was a wake up call to me to say, for instance, like, not to say, for instance, but to say in exact, what am I doing for my community? Like, I wanted to graduate college and bring back the knowledge back. And that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I wasn't doing. So it was like, okay, people are still dying. Now it's, hitting closer to home. What do we do? What am I going to do? So then I became more involved in that sense. So that was in 2019. So I was a campaign manager in 2019 into 2020, you know, and um, that was that was fine. And I was on the board of health as a member, not a chairman at the time. So now I'm a chairman. Um, so I already had those things, and I sought those things beforehand because of another negative situation, which is interesting. Through these negative situations, we know how to grow and change and adapt. For me, I was at that point, I should say, back in 2019, I was like, all right, let's see what I can get my hands into. And I didn't really say no to a lot of things. So um, they were like, hey, do you want to be on this commission or this committee? I was like, yeah, let me do it. I don't know what else I wouldn't do, so let me just do it. And then came the question, hey, this candidate needs a campaign manager. Will you do it? Yeah, I'll do it. Let's get the interview, and nailed the interview,
Mm,
and um, did all that. Again, COVID hit. It affected everybody, changed everybody, and then there comes a situation where racism gets gets shown to the world, how institutional racism is. So Lansing creates a commission or a committee to figure out what's going on in our city. I get asked, or the question asked, well, who's going to help on this committee? No one else is raising their hand, and in a way,
mm.
I'm kind of like, okay, there's one person who did, And I was like, okay, cool. At least some other person wants to do this, not just me. I also then raise my hand and say, all right, I'll do it too. So we vote on it next month. I'm the one who gets the vote to go to the committee, the other committee, to be a part of the task force, the racial equity task force. So I'm like, all right, bet. That comes around. That's still going around. I'm still a part of that. And then someone, another individual contacted me. Hey, you did a campaign for so and so. I wonder if you can do a campaign, manager for me. Yep, I'll do it.
Hmm.
Why not? So I'm doing these things, and I'm not really saying no. And it reminds me of the Bruce or Jim Carrey's Yes Man. I'm not sure if you remember that film.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, in which it's a terrible premise of just saying yes to everything.
Right.
But I get where it's coming from, where it's in and knowing your limits and also knowing your curiosity. And you don't know that until you start to experience new things, until you start to try to do new things. And for me, the camera's not focusing, there we go.
Mhm.
And for me, that's what I was going to do. I was kind of not being a yes man, but being in a way, being a man to try to experience new things. So that's what I was doing, and doing new things to help my community out. Fast forward to now, I was like, I want to put a podcast. I want to do something more. So I'm doing this. And then talking to Ben, he's like, I need somebody, do some work for me. I'm like, all right. So that's where I'm at right now. And now I think I have a little bit of a lot, not a lot. I would say I have, my schedule is now filled, not to the
Mm.
brand, but it's like it's a good 80% of my time is being devoted, Monday through Friday to some type of task. And I like it. Like I enjoy it because before 100% of my task was trying to figure out my island on on Animal Crossing. So, this is way more enjoyable because it's actually going to produce something real and tangible. I can guess I can get TikTok famous or something with my island, but that's not my goal. My goal is to help the community out in whatever aspect I can, and I'm doing it. So I'm really actually I'm doing my dream without living the dream, sort of sense. Um,
Okay.
Most of these positions they don't pay, so there's that side of thing, but it also shows who you are. Are you in it for the money, or are you in it for the real purpose? And sticking through it. I would like to get paid, but I'm sticking through it. Say pay for what you can enjoy or pay for what you love to do. I think it's a little bit harder to do that when your pay is to help people, and if people can't pay you, then you got to make that decision, that human decision of, do I do this for free, or do I do this for payment? Like, where are my boundaries, where are my limits? So
That's actually a good point, especially as we curtail this particular podcast. Um, you've been making a lot of transitions, a lot of changes over the past couple of years, especially over the last 2 years, as you've mentioned. And it's a lot of people making that kind of change and transition, and not being able to either go into what they love, or because they're faced with this opportunity of transition, it's the idea of, okay, we're still in a pandemic, I need money right now. But what I'm trying to do is a betterment for somebody else who may be in a worse position than I am. And do I have that like, am I obligated to do this for free, or am I, do I need to have to make the money for it, because it's a lot. So I give, like, not necessarily advice, but give your process, or a little bit of advice or action on anything, if you will, what you can speak on, in terms of how you go about that process, that idea of, I have to live, I have to make money, I got things that have to be done fundamentally for me to continue even helping other people. How do you go about your process, and understanding, how you're able to help yourself as well as other people?
so I I guess there's a lot of build up to that, of getting to that final decision of, what am I doing, and what am I going to do, and how do I do it? Um, Part of that is I don't know everything. I'm not the genius in the room. Someone else can be just as smart or smarter than me. So I need to figure out where I need to be in that room to learn. So part of that is being accepting the fact that you're not perfect. You can't be perfect and you can't do this alone. So you have to find people. And that's where I came into uh, the whole committee of the Board of Health. It's like these are people who aren't getting paid. They're using their position and their main job to help funnel their influence and their inspiration and their resources to help the people. On on that board, we all passed this policy of health in all policies, which basically states that whenever a new policy is enacted or changed, that they include the fact of how do you or how they're in, they're thinking about the health implications of that policy. How does it affect the population in a healthy way? So there's that, that's something we all signed. That's something we all put together. That's something that was pushed through. And it's super cool that there are people who are thinking of people in that manner, in that on that level to do that. So when it comes to pushing myself, say if it's something I don't want to do, then that's where I really comes down to the point of should I not do it? Can I not do it? Like, where are my boundaries at? What's the need that they need someone for this? Do they need me? Is this something that my ability can do that I can do? Is this something where I may know someone who can do this? Should I vote? Should I raise my hand? Can I? These are all questions that I'm asking myself and answering within a 2 minute span. And it's nothing like highly conceptual. It's just like anybody can think this way, anybody can do what I'm doing. The problem is anybody doing it? And
Right.
so, and that's where I come to the point of like, okay, if no one's going to raise their hand, that means no one is actually thinking or wanting to do this. And I'm the only one who's teetering on the, yeah, I'll do it because no one else is doing it, because I will be that person who will put in that work, and I'm gonna do it. I'm a doer. I like to do actionable things. I don't like to sit around and do nothing. I was doing that already. I don't like doing that. I'm used to that. I want to do something. I want to be involved. I want to help out. I want to put a smile on someone's face that that things are changing for the better. I want to show them that things are changing for the better. So that's part of my inspiration, part of my okay, go do it. Okay, go do it. When it comes down to things where it's like it's really ambivalent, like it could be one way or the other. Sometimes not to make it so simplified, but I get to the point where I'll flip a coin. Like, all right, if the if the consequence is nothing of my fault, nothing of what I'm inputting into it, and the benefit or the cost, I should say, the cost is nothing of my input. Like it wouldn't matter if I included my value or not. It won't change if I wasn't there. It would only change for the better if I do, or it might not. I mean, if I do a worse job, I'll flip a coin, and see, heads, this will do it, tails, this will do it, but I'm not saying like I flip a coin on people's lives. No, I'm way more gonna think about that one. No, but I'll flip a coin in my head of like, what are where am I going with this? Where am I not gonna go with that? So I think that answers your question. Does it not?
A little bit, a little bit. There's it's there.
Okay.
Okay. And so
Okay.
before I have to get you off and everything, we always ask like this kind of one question. It's a variance of everything, right? I always kind of change it depending on how people speak. What
Hmm.
is one piece? It doesn't have to be the best piece, but what is something that you would really want someone who is transitioning in their life right now to understand? Or what do you think if someone was listening to this and they're transitioning, they might have lost a job, they might be in between jobs right now, they might be prepping to start a new job. What strong piece of actionable advice would you give to somebody in that transition period?
In the most cliche way, which surprisingly is the most effective way. Nike said it. What's the dude's name from Lizzie McGuire? Shia LaBeouf. He said it. There we go. That's his name. It's like Shia LaBeouf or Shia
Shia
LaBeouf.
LaBeouf.
It's like, yeah. He said it. Just do it. Just get off the couch and just do it. There's a famous military guy who wrote a book, and basically the whole book is saying the same thing. Just do it. Just get off the couch. Just walk and just do it. For this podcast, I had no idea how to do it. And a friend told me, hey, people use this app called Anchor. I'm like, all right, I'll look it up. Downloaded it, looked at it. I was like, oh, actually, it is very simple. I just have to do it. I just have to record something. And then honestly, when you start actually moving toward doing something, instead of thinking about why it won't work, when you start thinking about how can you make it work, and you're making those steps and you're making those moves and you're writing things down, the vision becomes more plain. The whole aspect of, or the veil, the mysticism behind it, and the confusion behind it, it starts to move away like a dense fog on a noonday. Like, it starts going away. Like, it becomes more clear. So really, you just have to do it. You just have to put yourself out there. And for those people who are really, really apprehensive or really, really afraid or fearful, fear is only an emotion of our minds, and it is impactful and it helps us. But when that fear becomes debilitating, that it's holding you back from something that you should be attaining, that you should go out for, and I guess it's objectively or subjectively about what you should and shouldn't do. But the way I look at it also is, if you're not helping someone else's life in your career or your life, you're wasting your time. And that's my opinion. You don't have to share the same opinion, but that's my opinion. You're wasting your time if you're not making someone else's life better. Whether you're making a vehicle become more profitable or more efficient for people to use, more safe for people, then you're helping somebody. But also, maybe you could teach somebody in your neighborhood what you do. That maybe that might inspire them to become an engineer or a mechanic or so forth. But like I said, you don't know what you don't know, so you might as well try and see. And if you fail, that's okay. You're failing up because you find out what you can't do. And maybe some people will get hurt by it. Maybe some people won't. You can't control other people. You only can control how you respond to whatever is at you. So with that, go out and show out.
Just do it.
Yeah,
I
really,
think we
just
know what
do
this
it.
podcast is going to be called today. I don't know if I can actually say that because that might be copyright infringement and Nike will sue me, and I can't afford a Nike lawsuit. So
I don't think they will, but I don't fault you
small.
for being afraid to do that.
Listen,
yeah, they're not going to sue you. You don't have any money, though.
Listen, if Nike sued me, I might be happy. If that would mean that would mean it got so popular, Nike saw this podcast, and
yes,
I'd be happy. I'll take the lawsuit.
Again,
I'll shut
failing up.
Failing up. There we go. Failing up. So thank you so much, Alexander, for joining us on this podcast today. We absolutely loved having you. You were an amazing storyteller. And before we go, do a shameless plug. Talk about all of your social medias. Give us the link. Obviously, all your links and everything we'll put in the bio, in the description. Where can we follow you? Where can we find you? What should we listen to you on?
Yeah. So on Facebook, I think it's AWW Woods. I think that's right. Maybe not. You can just find me, Alexander William Woods. On Snapchat, I am Captain. No, I don't even forget my name. So we're going to forget those two. On Instagram, you can follow me at a Wild Woods, or I think it's _a Wild Woods. And you can follow the podcast itself at m.i.history. So that's it's m.i.history. So my history. You can follow that on Instagram. So links will be in the description too. So you don't have to.
Everything will be in the description. You guys heard it here first. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of The Ramblings. And that's a wrap. Hey, Ramblers, that's it. Podcast is over. Don't leave yet, though. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and follow us on YouTube at Off Source HQ. We'll see you next time.